and West Kootenay.
Mr. Speaker, Canada's forestry and softwood lumber sectors are pillars of our economy. They should sustain thousands of jobs, fuel communities, and generate billions in exports. Yet under this Liberal government, these industries have been left behind. Canada's softwood lumber production generates 20 billion board feet per year. That's ready for sale. Roughly 90% of that goes directly to the United States, which remains the primary market for Canadian producers. American export access is critical to this industry's survival. The industry contributed over $21 billion annually to GDP, $87 billion in total revenues, and $37 billion in exports. The forestry sector supports over 200,000 direct jobs in 300 forest-dependent communities, more than Canada's steel, aluminum, and automotive sectors combined. Despite this, the industry is shrinking. Canadian production has declined 28% since 2017. In my riding, I recently visited the Interfor Mill in Grand Forks, a vital employer for that community. Yet just a month later, it has indefinitely closed its doors. Do you understand what this does to a small community? The impact is devastating. Sadly, this mill is yet another example of the damage caused by the Liberals' decade-long inaction on softwood lumber. The Liberals like to boast that their Build Homes initiative will save the softwood lumber industry. But the reality is very different. Domestic home building cannot replace access to our largest export market. The industry doesn't struggle with displaced domestic demand, but with barriers to U.S. markets. And new housing projects are years away from breaking ground because of long permitting and financing delays. The government promised to double home building in 10 years. It sounds ambitious, but it represents just 1.9 billion board feet of new demand, only 3% of the North American market. Recently, my colleague, the Honourable Member for Regina Capel, brought attention to my request for an emergency take-note debate on softwood lumber after the Prime Minister once again failed to reach an agreement during his recent visit to the U.S. President. The Liberal minister responded that he didn't think it was much of an emergency. Tell that to the families in forestry towns like Grand Forks who've lost their jobs. Now contrast this with the previous Conservative record. The 2006 Softwood Lumber Agreement, signed under a Conservative government, ended the 2001-2006 dispute and returned $5 billion in unfairly collected duties to Canadian producers. In 2017, Canadian lumber supplied 30% of U.S. consumption. Today, it's just 22%. Over the same period, Europe's share has more than doubled, rising from 3% to 7%. Every year without a deal means more mill closures, more layoffs, and more broken communities. After a decade of failure, how can Canadians have any faith left in this Liberal government's ability to act?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, this government is on a mission to build Canada's economic strength. We are building big, building bold, and building right now. The cornerstone of our plan is to build 500,000 homes and other major projects using Canadian steel and Canadian lumber. We'll upgrade our grid, expand transmission lines, and modernize energy infrastructure to power AI. And to move our critical minerals and energy resources, we'll build bigger ports, create more liquefied natural gas capacity, faster rail, and modern pipelines. To make this happen, we need new skilled workers. We won't be able to double the pace of housing construction without an influx of an additional 500,000 workers, including tile setters, painters, electricians, carpenters, plumbers, construction craft workers, and bricklayers. We also need automotive service technicians, power line technicians, millwrights, truck and transport mechanics, and so much more. Les travailleurs qualifiés sont essentiels.
Skilled workers are essential to Canada's future prosperity. This is why we are actively encouraging young people to consider getting into the trades. This is also why our government is investing about $2 billion per year in a series of measures for learning.
Union Training and Innovation Program under the Canadian Apprenticeship Strategy. This program is focused on improving the quality of training in the Red Seal trades. This helps to ensure apprentices, pre-apprentices, and journey persons have the best possible learning opportunities through union-based apprenticeship training, innovation, and enhanced partnerships. For the apprenticeship service, we've earmarked $90 million to help small and medium-sized employers bring apprentices on board and create new placements. Further, through the Sectoral Workforce Solutions Program, we will fund strategic projects in residential construction and other key economic sectors, including those impacted by U.S. tariffs, with initiatives aimed at addressing acute and systemic workforce development needs so that we have the workforce that we'll need. Enfin, nous avons mis en place des...
Finally, we have tax measures to bring down costs for skilled workers and trades workers. There is a tax credit deduction for firefighters and for apprentice mechanics so that they can deduct for things that they need for their jobs, and also they can claim costs for technical training and costs to go to take the Red Seal exam. Also, there's a deduction for labor mobility for moving around.
Trades workforce and make it easier for Canadians to get trained, get hired, and build our country. And once they're trained, the just passed One Canadian Economy Act legislation has removed federal barriers to labor mobility, which means a worker licensed or certified by a province or territory can work in a comparable occupation in federal jurisdiction without additional requirements. Being able to work across Canada expands opportunities for workers, gives employers a bigger hiring pool, and strengthens our economy. This new law also enables the government to cut the approval times for major projects from 5 years down to 2, so we can get shovels in the ground faster, so people can work sooner. I want to thank the Canadian Building Trades for helping us pass the One Canadian Economy Act. They asked for it, and we listened. Meeting Canada's economic and climate challenges starts with listening to workers. Together, we made it happen. They're standing with us to make this Canada's moment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Similkameen, South Okanagan, West Kootenay.
Mr. Speaker, while I appreciate my colleague across the floor responding, I think she might have mentioned the word forestry 2 or 3 times. I'm not sure she understood that I was talking about the forestry industry. The Liberals have no idea what a mill closure does to a small community, or they would try harder to get a deal. We're talking about the forestry industry here. I don't know if she wants to repeat what she has to say or whether that's even allowed. The government insists that these workers, these forestry workers, and the people in the towns that these mills are located, that are closing, have access to support. Yet no funds have been accessible to the industry at all. A $1.5 billion support package or a Build Canada Homes initiative will not offset the damage caused by the government's failure to act. Can the member tell us when they will stop hiding behind excuses and get Canadians back to their jobs?
Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, I appreciate the honourable member from Similkameen, South Okanagan, West Kootenay for giving me the opportunity to talk about the Government of Canada's steadfast commitment to building Canada's economic strength. It's a commitment we take very seriously. We are focused on preparing Canadians for the future. Nous offrons d'excellents programmes pour...
We have excellent programs so that Canadians know that their jobs are guaranteed. We are ensuring that young people have the skills and the experience that they need to join the labor force, all while allowing more experienced workers to train more.
That will create good long-term construction careers and help build the Canadian economy for the long term, and that includes the forestry industry. We know all our communities will be the beneficiaries. Thank you.